welcome. Today we're talking about 11.3 notes. I had these posted Monday morning, but I thought I would put a video together. Apologies for this being a bit late, but today we talk property taxes. So property taxes, anytime you own a house or a condo, even if you don't owe money for a mortgage, you still have to pay property taxes. So some people think about that and they're like, well, even after I don't owe anything, I still have to pay. And it's every 6 months. And the answer is yes, you do have to pay. So it's kind of like you don't ever really own the property, right? Because you're always going to be paying money to the county. So what does this pay for? A huge chunk actually goes to schools. Pays for my salary, Mr. Najjar's salary, all the Chromebooks that you guys have, the construction project that's going on at North and South, that's covered through property taxes. So that's a huge chunk. Other things are just like shared services that are used, like the police department, fire department, roads. A lot of local things are paid for within the county for property taxes. So here's some definitions for you that we're going to use. I won't go over all those, but if you want to pause and write those down, that'd be great. One thing that we'll talk about, market value and assessed value are different. If you're going to sell your house, the amount that somebody's willing to pay for it is the market value. It's what the market dictates that you'll be able to get for your house. The assessed value is what the county says your house is worth when they plug it into their equation. So they're not going to necessarily use the market value. A lot of times they'll multiply that by 1%. The assessed value itself doesn't really mean a whole lot other than it's used to calculate your property tax amount. So let's get to, there's 3 sections with equations. They just kind of build on each other, so it's a little bit repetitive. But assessed value, okay, so if we know the market value and we know the rate assessment, we can multiply those together to make sure that we change our percentage. So if we want to find the assessed value, first we take the market value. This example is 100,600. This is changed to a decimal, right? Divide that 6.3 by 100. Decimal 2 spots to the left, 0.363, and we get 7,786 and 80 cents. So that's the assessed value. That's not our property tax. That's the value that will get thrown into another equation to calculate the property tax amount. Okay, secondly, the tax rate in dollars. We take the number of mills and divide it by 1,000. And this mill is the number that the county will tell you that they use to calculate your taxes. So that gives us the tax rate. That number gets thrown into the next equation. The property tax dollar amount is going to be the assessed value times the tax rate. Okay, so for example, 2, Rachel owns a house with an assessed value of $42,000. Again, that's not necessarily the fair market value, that's the assessed value. Her property tax in her city sets a tax rate of 30.6 mils. We need to find her property tax. So you'll see this here, don't round. That's important so that we get the most accurate answer. Let's save the rounding until the end. Okay, the later that we round, the more accurate it'll be. If you round right away, every other calculation will be that much further from the actual number. So our tax rate in dollars, we take this number of mils divided by 1,000 and we get 0.0306. That's what we're going to keep as 4 decimals. Don't round it to 0.03. Then the property tax, we take our assessed value times that number that we just calculated. And we get 1,285 and 20 cents. That's what I would owe yearly for my property tax. Usually that's broken into 2 payments where you pay it once every 6 months. Actually, the bank that you owe your mortgage to typically pays it in 6 months. You pay the bank every month. So $1,285, if we divided that into monthly payments, divided by 12, that'd be a little over $100. We would pay $100 to the bank every month, and then they would save it up, and then after 6 months, they'd have like $600 or $700. They would pay that to the county. Then they would save our next 6 payments, and at the end of 12 months, they would pay that to the county. So it makes it a little easier from a budgeting standpoint. All right, you guys can do example 3. Why don't you try that? You can pause, and then I will show the response or show the answer. And you can see we got $1,200 for our property tax on example 3. Okay, last section. Now we'll kind of put everything together here. So before we were given the assessed value, now we're going to calculate the assessed value. So we did that in the first part. So we take the market value, multiply by the rate of assessment. Step 2, we find our tax rate. That's the number of mills divided by 1,000. And then lastly, we're just going to multiply these two numbers together. The number from the first equation that we calculated, the number from the second equation that we calculated, that's going to give us our property tax. So assessed value times the tax rate. So we'll kind of look step by step here. Example 4, this wording that they give you, don't worry about that. We changed that a couple years back. It says a tax rate of 29.81 per $1,000 of assessed value. That just shows that we're going to divide by 1,000. That number that you're seeing is really the number of mills. So first we find the assessed value. So we take our 0.75 times our fair market value of 59,300, and we get an assessed value of 44,475. Now we find our tax rate, step 2 here. So we take our mills, 29.81 divided by 1,000. We get 0.02981. We're not going to round. Last, we simply multiply those two numbers that we just got together. So 44,475 times 0.02981. We get $1,325.80. I'll let you guys calculate the last one. So if you want to pause, then I'll show the answer. Okay, there's the work for the last one, $1,567.87. Guys, you're awesome. Thank you. We'll have either another day of notes or a project posted for the second day this week for either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what period you are. Appreciate it. Let us know if you have any questions. Okay.